My name's Courtney Gilbert. I'm curator of visual arts at Sun Valley Museum of Art. And the exhibition that we opened this fall is called Gem State. Gem State takes its title from Idaho's nickname. The origins of that nickname are kind of murky, but Idaho is renowned for its geological wealth, both in terms of its mineral resources and in terms of its natural scenery. So we took that nickname, Gem State, as the inspiration for an entire big idea project and visual arts exhibition about geology. Idaho and lots of different parts of the American West are places where their history is written across their geology. The exhibition uses the idea of geology as a metaphor for thinking about the ideas of time, transformation, and history, both human and geological. The exhibition features artwork by 4 contemporary artists. I think that the idea of transformation through time is maybe most evident in the work of Mary Andrews. Andrews is based in Northern California, and she works with lots of different kinds of ephemeral and organic materials, including rocks and minerals. I actually started planning this exhibition when I first saw images of small sculptures she calls coal gems. They're pieces of anthracite coal that she carves and polishes and coats with wax, leaving some of the parts of the sculpture kind of rough and relatively untouched, while others have these beautiful, smooth facets and sharp edges. And that popular idea that diamonds are the product of coal under pressure over thousands and millions of years. We also have a piece she calls collected topography, which consists of 29 lead pockets, these small lead pockets of different sizes that are each filled with soil samples from places that Andrews has traveled, mostly in the American West, but also in France. And they're really kind of wondrous in the diversity of color and texture inherent in all these different soil samples. And I think she's interested in the idea of the geology of place, that the surface that we walk on really connects us to where we are. She grew up in a family of scientists, and she thinks of her projects each as sort of experiments in terms of the way that she works with materials and the form that they take when she's done working with them. So we also have a whole wall of small sculptures that are made primarily from mica and lead, but also gold, silver, copper. Many of them will change through time, through oxidation, and they allow her to create these delicate kind of drawings in space. The artist Cynthia Ona Innes, who's also based in Northern California, feels it's really important to physically experience the places that she's making work about. And so we have a collection of her paintings and works on paper, many of which were made after a long road trip through the states of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. And she traveled with a focus on places that have unique geological formations and activity. So she visited Yellowstone, she visited Grand Teton National Park. She was interested in the idea of calderas and hot springs, geysers, but also mountain peaks. And she works with fabric, with canvas, with acrylic paint, and with ink, staining canvas, cutting up fabric, layering it. She layers materials in ways that evoke kind of the striations of sedimentary rock. She stains canvas with these beautiful blooms of color that evoke geothermic activity and geysers going off, maybe at Yellowstone. We also have works that she's made about the San Andreas Fault and Pinnacles National Monument in California, where she's really interested in the idea of fault lines and tectonic plates butting up against each other. And that idea that there's always movement and activity going on beneath our feet that we can't necessarily see, and the Earth is in a state of constant flux. So as part of this project, we were able to invite 2 artists to create new work for this exhibition. One of them is an artist based in Brooklyn named Blaine de St. Croix. And de St. Croix has been making work about geological places and landscapes that have social and political meaning for a long time. He's made artwork about glaciers and about their disappearance. He's particularly interested in drawing attention to the dramatic effects of climate change on landscape. And for this exhibition, he came to Idaho. We put together a map of sites all over southern Idaho, and he spent every day during his residency visiting places like Bruneau Sand Dunes, the Snake River. He spent a day at Craters of the Moon. He walked through burned forests He was here in the fall of 2019 and it unexpectedly snowed. So he got to see Idaho's forests covered in snow. He went up into the Sawtooths. He went to Little City of Rocks as well. And he was amazed at the diversity in geology in this part of the world and the diversity in topography. We've got forests, high desert, alpine landscapes. And he was also interested in the history of this place as a Union Pacific destination. So for this exhibition, he made a sculpture called Moving Landscapes that is a Union Pacific model train carrying cars, each of which feature a small sculpture of one of the landscapes that he visited while he was here. The idea of the train moving in a continuous circle, constantly chasing its own tail, it's a metaphor for the idea that these places are changing and that these kind of fragile landscapes, if we don't pay attention to that change and to that precariousness, may be permanently altered. So as part of the planning for Gem State, I was also able to invite an artist named Brad Johnson to do a site-specific project focused on the idea of geology in Idaho. Brad Johnson is based in Washington State, very near Portland, Oregon. He is a multidisciplinary artist who works with photography, with digital media, and then also with much more hands-on techniques, working with paint and ink, cutting things up and reassembling them, and building up three-dimensional artworks that from a distance appear two-dimensional in order to represent his experience of a given place. So for this project, he did a road trip from northern Idaho down through central Idaho all the way to City of Rocks, visiting places that he was drawn to because of their unique geology. So for instance, he visited near Reagan's, Idaho, where these hexagonal columns of basalt are stacked horizontally along the side of a road. He began with a photograph of that place that feels almost life-size in scale, and cut it, reassembled it, worked on it with ink and with acrylic to create a three-dimensional surface that really evokes the experience of being at this unique geological site. He visited an abandoned quarry where, despite the fact that there wasn't really any signage or any indication of what had gone on, there was all this evidence of human activity. And he made beautiful works about that experience, what he described as like being inside a carved out mountain. And then he visited Cooper's Ferry, an archaeological site where recently evidence was found of stone tools that indicate that human beings were in this part of the world 1,000 years earlier than scientists thought before. And when he visited Cooper's Ferry, he was surprised to see that the place had been so cleaned up and remediated that there was no evidence, not only that anyone had ever inhabited that place, but that archaeologists had just recently been excavating it. And so he's made works on paper that kind of reimagine the idea of these landscapes being cut away and excavated in these layers that sort of look like terraces. And he's created the three-dimensional experience of that terracing on the surface of the work as well. Johnson was preparing this work to travel here from Washington. He built this beautiful crate that also serves as a frame for the cordwood basalt piece that he made. And he packed each of the other works very carefully so that they hung against the lid of the crate. And when we opened it up, it was a lot like experiencing a diorama in a natural history museum. And I think that Johnson's super interested in the idea of the history of science, and his artwork allows him to share the results of what he sees as an expedition that he made. And he's titled the whole project Idaho Survey. I hope everybody will come in and see this exhibition. It is up until the end of the year. It closes December 31st. It's been a wonderful way, I think, for all of us who've participated in it to think about the fact that geology represents the idea that change is both inevitable but also possible.